Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a senior and respected professional and a coach from Melbourne, Australia, Sarika Goel. Sarika, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ashutosh.
Sarika is a resilience coach helping you thrive through change. So, Sarika, before we come to resilience coaching, a few questions for you. You've had a rich
Mhm.
career in HR leadership. What inspired the transition to coaching?
Well, that's a good question. So I always wanted to be in coaching. So about since last 10, 15 years, I had been exploring coaching,
Hmm.
but I never made time for it. And when I say I never made time, I actually just remained in my job and didn't make that effort
Hmm.
and make time. And I always say that when you don't take the decision, universe takes it for you.
Hmm.
And that's what happened. There was a phase, which was a difficult phase, and I felt everything was going wrong. And then the moment that the decision making that happened was, my role was made redundant. So with that role becoming redundant, all the possibilities
Okay.
opened up.
Yeah.
So with that, I went into certifying as a coach, and my journey of coaching started.
Amazing. Amazing. What did you learn about people and organizations during your time at Naukri and GLG that now influences you as a coach?
Good question, Ashutosh. Again, um, a few things. One is trust in your employees' belief and diversity. I would
Hmm.
say those have been big takeaways for me, and I've seen both sides. When I say both sides, when leaders were trusting and when they were not trusting, and what the impact on the culture.
Hmm.
Um, so I've seen that, which has impacted me in big way. And how it affects my coaching is I'm able to understand the challenges when my client is talking about it. I'm able to understand their challenges, and I'm also able to bring back the power in their hands.
Hmm.
So there's so many times you feel like, oh, my manager is doing this and that is not wrong, or this is what is happening. When we bring back the power, something shifts. How we see things, how we deal, and eventually we don't have to stay in that organization if we're not
Yeah.
happy, right?
Yeah.
So how it impacts our coaching, my coaching is being more empathetic and then still bringing the power back.
Amazing. You also served in multiple volunteer roles.
Mm.
What do these experiences mean to you personally, and how have they shaped you as a person?
So I started volunteering with the Freedom Employability Academy. And the reason I started was I just wanted to give back to the community my skills.
Hmm.
However, what I saw was I learned so much there. Um, and so, and then when I came to Australia, I started volunteering at this aged care. My reason was there was so much of loneliness that I felt. And I said, okay, how can I shift my loneliness to empower others?
Hmm.
And when I went there, the lady there was had dementia,
Mhm.
and what I saw was she didn't remember names, she didn't remember people, she wouldn't remember me, but she did not forget to compliment.
Hmm.
So who you are as a person. So each connection. So I saw one resilience amongst people. And every connection is so important. Every small interaction can build and shift so much for you internally. So
Hmm.
that's how it has shaped me that I now see people as very strong in themselves. And I believe everyone is resilient.
Hmm.
It's just that there are circumstances and challenges that people face,
Yeah.
and little support can go a long way.
Hmm. Well said. And your response gives me a good segue to resilience coaching, where you have a lot of understanding and knowledge. And Sarika, my first question here is what does resilience mean to you, especially in the context of life transitions?
Let's talk about what resilience isn't to me then.
Okay.
Um, it is not bouncing back quickly or showing you're strong all the time.
Mm,
To me, it is, especially for life transitions, giving yourself that permission, that space
mm,
to accept the disruption, to feel that disruption has happened.
mm,
And from there, slowly building new meaning, new direction for yourself. So you're not trying to change yourself, but finding new direction. And it is shifting from why me to what are the opportunities here.
mm. Very
Yeah, so
interesting.
that's what
And
resilience.
wonderful. And what, based on your all the work that you do with so many people, what are some of the most common misconceptions about resilience that you have encountered?
I have to do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so many people believe that I would look weak if I seek any help.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep hiding. Um, I have to look strong, so I can't feel my emotions because if I do feel my emotions, um, then I'm not strong, and so I have to fake it till you make it kind of a concept.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so the hustle culture that if I do more, if I do more work, um, more routines, build in all of that,
Mm-hmm.
then I will look strong and resilient. Uh, and it's far from true, actually. I've seen resilient people are compassionate, they give themselves time
Mm-hmm.
um, to accept what has happened and how they feel about it,
Mm-hmm.
and then making intentional choices.
Great response. And Sarika, given the fact that you do work with immigrants and expats, I'd love to get your perspective on what are some of the unique challenges that immigrant and expat professionals face when it comes to resilience.
Mm. Well, I wouldn't have known as much after earlier, although I was supporting expats even in my previous role at GLG. Uh, when I have lived it through, I can see some of the challenges are there's a disconnect internally on what is home. Is my new country my home or is my old country
Yeah.
my home? And that creates issues with confidence and self-doubt coming creeping in. The other one is, and that's usually less for expats, but people who migrate or immigrate are immigrants. Uh, their education is not recognized, their experience is not recognized
Mm,
in new country,
mm,
and that creates again self-doubt, confidence being hit. Um, and the third one I would say is something which I touched on earlier, which is
mm,
isolation. So
mm.
you've left all your support network. I knew the doctor. I knew which shop to go and buy something from. My friends are there.
Yeah.
So you've left all of that. So
Mm.
that feeling of, and I had one client who talked about this. I don't know anyone here, and it will take years to build the same
Correct.
kind of network.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very well said. And I can appreciate what you're saying because we were expatriates in Singapore for a long time.
Mm.
And of course, that was one experience. But when we moved back to Delhi after so
Mm.
many years, it felt like an expat all over again because you had to resettle
I,
to your own home
yeah,
country. Yeah. But
yeah, I totally hear you.
but Sarika, moving on, how do you support clients in navigating the emotional complexities of starting over in a new country?
So, one thing I would say is it starts with giving them space to
Mm,
process it. Because a lot of times they've not given themselves that space.
mm,
So, to process what it means and normalizing it that yes, this is normal. It's
mm,
not, there's nothing wrong with you.
yeah.
Because a lot of times they come with, okay, what's wrong with me?
Mm,
Uh, so, it starts with normalizing that. Uh, then looking at small actionable steps
mhm,
on how can they build themselves in this new place. Uh, what So it starts with first their own rituals. So for one of the clients, she made a temple or at her house, and she said,
Mhm.
"I don't have anything. How do I make it?" So we just worked on it and made it in a corner.
Hmm.
Just put few things that you have. It doesn't have to be something lavish like what you had at
Correct.
home.
Correct.
So creating that safe space for yourself, and then working towards what else, how can you build that
Hmm.
community and the support.
Hmm.
So rituals, habits. She didn't pray at her own home, but she said, okay, now I'm here, I feel like doing it. I said, so
Hmm.
what's stopping you?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fascinating. You also speak about helping people or your clients to create a psychologically safe space. What role does self compassion play uh, in coaching, and how do you help people to create this psychologically safe place?
Mm. uh, Psychologically safe space, one is how do I give them that space. um, and how I give them that space starts before the coaching session. Which is, I have a practice where before I get into any coaching session, I would remind myself
Hmm.
to lead the session with curiosity
Hmm.
and no judgment.
Hmm.
Now, what that does is when I get into it, I'm not, and this is something which my clients have said that we don't feel judged at all.
Hmm.
And so that gives them safe space to share what they have to bring.
Hmm.
For themselves, I remind them to think of them as their own good friend. That's one technique that I give them, that, okay, would you do this to your friend? And that question shifts everything.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes stories and visualizations also help in that process. So I use those techniques.
Very interesting. And how do you help your clients to reframe limiting beliefs or inner narratives that hold them back?
A lot of times it's listening to what they bring and
Hmm.
holding the mirror.
Hmm.
Is this what you mean? But so once they realize this is the narrative and they want to do something about it,
Hmm.
that's when we start shaping. I had a client we came up with an affirmation, and she said, but this doesn't sound true.
Hmm.
I am not there. So we changed that to saying, I am learning to be there.
Hmm.
So, and when we change and when it feels real, they are able to practice. One of the strongest thing I recommend to them is journaling.
Hmm.
And during journaling, following a gratitude practice.
Hmm.
Because when they do that, they see a shift in themselves.
Hmm.
One more thing I would like to bring here
Yeah.
is a well done list. I continue talking about my endless well done list.
Hmm.
Uh, and this is, a lot of times I've seen clients have a long list of what I have not done.
Hmm.
I didn't do this, I didn't do that. So I'm not doing enough.
Hmm.
But when they shift their focus on what I have done, suddenly something changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do advocate having a well-done list for yourself all the time.
Amazing. I've heard of many, many different things, but this first time, honestly, I've heard about a well done list. And that's a very, very great input you're giving to my viewers and listeners, like you do to your clients. Moving on, Sarika, how do you coach someone through a failed professional assignment or an unexpected life detour?
Mm. It is giving a lot of space to, first of all, process, like I talked about it earlier.
Mm.
Uh, Process what happened, um, and remembering that it's not you who's done the,
Mm.
and again shifting that focus from why to what. I've seen it's very powerful when we are talking about why. We A lot of clients remain in that loop of, why did I do that? Why couldn't have I done something different? And the blame and shame comes with it.
Yeah.
When we shift the focus to what, you suddenly feel more empowered. What can I do about it? And so that's what my focus has been on. First of all, being present, knowing this challenge has happened and this is there,
Mm.
failed assignment, but it's not you. So
Mm.
disconnecting. The other thing I also work with them on is naming that internal voice.
Mm.
So in those moments, that internal voice which is repeating itself, naming them with it as something funny. So one of my clients named it as Mowgli.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So whenever what shifted was
Yeah.
whenever that internal voice came and she thought about Mowgli, it became less overwhelming. It
Mm.
became funny.
Very interesting.
So yeah, so those are kind of things that I work with my clients on shifting, disconnecting themselves from
Fascinating.
that difficult situation.
Fascinating. I love this Mowgli story. What does sustainable confidence look like? And how is it different from superficial positivity?
Mm. It's more grounded,
Mhm.
uh, and it's built on actions,
Mm.
small actions that you take over a period of time. Um, and I'll give you that example as um, so you're trying to do something new. You're going outside your comfort zone, and let's say you start networking, and you push yourself. Okay, I will do this well, etc. And one of my clients said he went with that, and halfway he returned. He didn't even reach the event.
Mm.
Uh, Whereas when it is built on smaller actions, where remind acknowledging that yes, I am feeling nervous, but I will just go to that event
Mhm.
and come back. I don't have to talk to everybody. I'm trying something new. I don't have to be present. So the first time you go, you just reach that destination, go to that event and come back.
Mm.
So then that a confidence at least to go there is built. The next time you go, I'll talk to one person.
Mm.
Okay. So that's an over period of time your brain has learned that's
Mm.
safe.
Yeah.
So your internal narrative then starts changing and you become more confident in doing that.
Amazing. Amazing. What a great response. What mindset shifts have the biggest long term impact on personal and professional growth?
Trust in the process.
Mm.
So trust in the process, having that faith
Mm.
uh, that challenges will come,
Mm.
um, but all is happening for my good,
Mm.
um, and I can handle it.
Mm.
So when you trust that process and you have that faith in yourself, that um, shifts a lot. It allows you to put yourself
Yeah.
out there and stand up again when you're actually feeling like I
Mm.
can't. It may not happen. It's not a shift like that happens in one day,
Mm.
but yeah.
It'll take
So
time, but
that
it will happen.
it happens,
Yeah.
and that's when that shift happens, and you start seeing yourself there. Yeah,
Well said.
magic happens.
Well said. Absolutely. I have time for three more questions for you. What strategies do you suggest for dealing with indecision or feeling stuck?
Uh, I would say start with journaling.
Mm.
Because a lot of it is to process what's happening in your head, and you feel stuck because there's fear.
Mhm.
So let's say a client was choosing between a job versus starting their own business,
Mm.
and both were big decisions. And just to take either of them had a big impact, and there was fear. What if? Am I taking the right decision? What if I fail?
Mm.
Uh, but when you start journaling, you start getting aware of what's important to you.
Mm.
Uh, and then second thing is breaking it down into manageable steps on what you can do.
Right.
So they when they're looking at this big decision, these are two big decisions.
Mm.
Uh, they can give themselves time that the big decision will happen. What is the small step I can take today?
Mm,
Maybe I can send one application, and maybe I can work this one thing on my business and see where my energy flows.
mm. Interesting. If someone is struggling silently with change or self doubt, what's the first thing they should do other than journaling?
Other than journaling. Okay. Pause. Reflect on your internal thought and acknowledge them.
Mm,
Uh, that's the internal narrative which is going on.
mm,
Reach out. Reach out to your friends and reach out. Maybe have a coach.
mm,
Um Identify your strengths. So what happens is when I say reach out to your friends and ask them, what do you see as my strengths? Because
mm,
you're not able to pull that right now from your within, which is fine. You're in that phase.
mm,
Lean on your network to give you that till you are able to stand up on your own.
mm. Fabulous. And my last question for you, Sarika, and this is for you personally. What advantages does a multicultural background like the one that you have bring to your coaching style?
One of my clients said it brings true empathy.
Hmm.
Um, I would say I am not I'm not judgmental of any of their cultures. So it brings curiosity
Hmm.
um, and stops me from jumping into assumption. So one of my clients in his discussion said, "Don't everyone does that?" And I was like, "No, that's different people have different choices. But isn't this the right choice?" And different choices are right for different people at different times. So
Mm,
I'm able to bring that and see uh, my perspective would be different from theirs, and what's important for them is what is what is that they need to grow
mm,
further.
mm,
So I'm able to distinguish between myself and them,
mm.
um, and I'm able to challenge them. That's another thing.
Yeah.
I'm able to challenge them from a different perspective.
Mm.
They've grown up into different environment, and I'm able to see it from a different angle.
Very interesting.
Uh,
Very interesting.
yeah.
And on that note, Sarika, I just want to say what a fabulous conversation this has been. I mean, thank you for sharing with me about your own amazing journey. I thought we covered some very interesting ground on resilience, and you gave me and my viewers and listeners some fascinating points to think about. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Ashutosh. This has been very good conversation. I didn't expect this to be like this, but yeah, very different and brought in things that I had not thought about. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the brand called You Videocast and Podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.